Okay. Good afternoon. The time is 2:30. I will call this meeting of the Findlay City Council Planning and Zoning Committee to order. I am the chairman, Councilman Bauman, representing Ward 5. I will let the rest of the committee introduce themselves.
Dennis Salmon, Findlay City Council, Ward 2.
Grant Russell, Councilman at Large.
Dan DeArmond, Ward 4.
Jim Niemeyer, Ward 6.
Okay, we will get right into the agenda. We will begin, if there are no objections from the committee, we will begin with item number 6, the 401 North Main Street and 0 Cherry Street zoning. Staff.
Yeah. So this request was located on the east side of North Main Street, just north of Cherry Street and the railroad tracks there. To the south, it's Zone C3 Downtown Commercial. It's located in a pocket of C2 General Commercial along North Main Street, and the City of Findlay Land Use Plan designates the parcel as Neighborhood Commercial. Parcel history, parcel has most recently been the City of Findlay sign shop and has functioned as a fire station in the past. Our staff analysis was C2 General Commercial District is established to provide for the development of a broad spectrum of commercial and business uses. These uses are expected to serve the commercial business and service needs of a regional area. C3 Downtown Business District is designed to distinguish the area as unique from all other business districts in the city. The unique characteristics include closer massing of buildings, taller buildings, pedestrian-friendly walkways, numerous uses to coexist that are prohibited in other districts, and using the city's right-of-way for outdoor dining, sidewalk sales, and exhibits. It also has a lack of required setbacks and lack of parking requirements. So when staff reviewed this this zoning request, one of the key factors in our recommendation was looking at the existing land use and the size of the lot. Given the location of the building on the parcel, staff considered it to be more aligned with the C3 district rather than the C2 district. It is a pedestrian-focused building. It doesn't provide necessarily for a regional need, and it's kind of too small to be redeveloped and meet those setbacks within the C2 district. In the meeting, it was discussed how having it rezoned to C3 actually would make it more attractive for redevelopment without having to tear down the existing structure. So with all that being said, staff recommended approval of the application for zoning amendment ZA-08-2025 submitted by the City of Findlay to rezone 401 North Main Street and parcel 590001010264 from C2 General Commercial to C3 Downtown Commercial. One quick note I'll add. I discussed with the auditor about combining the parcels since the parcel is just that strip of parking just north of the building. The problem is that the parking is located in a different subdivision than the firehouse sign shop building. So the auditor can't physically combine those in the per revised code for the auditor system. So they're hooked. They could be hooked together, but they can't be combined into one piece.
Questions or comments from the committee? Mr. Russell.
Was C1 considered?
It was considered, but it has significant setbacks where this does not have. C3 does not have setbacks. Kind of the clincher for me was that you could move this building to the middle of downtown and you'd say, oh, this fits. And so with that, the C3 zoning makes sense, in my opinion.
And if you go to the other map or the other slide on this, That's downtown zoning on the south side of Cherry.
Correct. So this is the railroad, so it is contiguous with C3 zoning. If you ask me, if there was a house across the street or something, and you said, well, we want to zone it C3, the main difference for me is this building looks and acts like a downtown building, where a single-family home does not look and act like a downtown. To me, if this was a residential house, I'd say no. We're not expanding the downtown district for a residential single-family house. But this is a building that looks and acts like a downtown building, fit in on any part of the downtown, Main Street, Main Cross.
Then the other alternative is because my assumption is that we're putting this building up for sale. The new owner would then have to go BZA to use it in a similar manner as the proposed zoning.
It would be, their likelihood of having to go to BZA is greatly escalated if it's C2 or C1. C3 with the no setbacks, the no parking requirements, like a downtown building, I don't say it's impossible, but there's very little chance they would need a variance.
And then the parking to the north of this building is theirs, but I'm sure it's being used by that building to the north and has been for a long time.
Am I allowed to speak?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, doing some research on this, as the administration's been looking at this parcel for a few years now and what to do with it, finding out that those parking spots to the north of the building originally were leased to the building north, I like to call it the Chatelain building, for quite some time. And you can see it was sealed and so forth, and it was rented. Going back in financial records it's the Chatelain, but actually not McKay was there originally. They moved on, and that lease agreement was not continued, but it was just continued at the assumption that it was attached to that parcel. So doing the research, we realized that's the city of Findlay's. There is no lease of parking spaces, and just seemed like it would make sense to work with that as we look at options to proceed with this building, whatever that looks like.
If I may,
Mr. Hellman.
continuing that line of questioning, there is no lease for that parking then, is that what you're saying?
Correct.
So it goes with the building to the north, or it goes with,
That parcel of parking spots is owned by the city of Findlay.
just that strip?
Correct.
Gotcha, all right, thank you.
And city planning approved it, or recommended approval, or approved it.
Correct.
Any further questions or comments? Anyone in a motioning mood?
Go ahead,
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Second, Mr. Hellman. All,
Is that for C3?
Yes.
yes.
Sorry. Yes.
Discussion? Seeing as there's none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That's
Okay. We will move on to the Keller-Seifert annexation.
Okay, so this is kind of a continuation of it was ZA-03-2025 that we saw in the previous month. This was the parcel that the condo development was planning to go on, and we heard that zoning amendment for condominium previously, but Phil Rooney indicated that all of these additional parcels were included in that request, and so that's why we're kind of cleaning up that request. So So that includes 10569, County Road 99, which requested C2 general commercial, which is Seiferd's plumbing business there. Then there's 10603 County Road 99, 10673 County Road 99, and 10685 County Road 99, which all requested R1 large lot residential. So just general info. These the site's located within Allen Township, but abuts the City of Findlay corporate boundary to the east there. It's City of Findlay land use plan had designated the area as single-family large lot. Parcel history, 105699 County Road 99 is currently Seiferd Plumbing, Heating, and AC LLC, and the other parcels are single-family homes that have been there for 20 to 30 years now. When we reviewed the initial zoning requests, staff takes into account the current land use of the properties. In this case, we've got the 3 residential homes that have been previously established. And so, and given the land use plan calls for single-family large lot in that area, we were comfortable with the R1 large lot residential zoning request. For the plumbing business, staff felt that it most closely resembled a contractor shop that's permitted as a conditional use in the C2 general commercial district. That contractor shop use is not found in the C1 district, and while it could be found as something that you'd see in the industrial districts, staff wasn't comfortable with the recommending of a industrial use when it's abutting those residential properties to the west there. So our staff recommendation was approval of the application for zoning amendment ZA-07-2025 submitted by Cipher Enterprises LLC, Ron Seiferd, and Laura Bodicher to establish initial zoning for the following properties upon annexation into the City of Findlay. 10569 County Road 99, C2 General Commercial, and 10603 County Road 99, 10673 County Road 99, and 10685 County Road 99 for R1 large lot residential. There was no real comments from the neighborhood prior to the hearing. We did have one resident from the audience speak, and they were more concerned about the condo development, which has already been discussed. That that upon annexation, they would begin construction off of 99, and just kind of going over some of those details. So in the end, Planning Commission recommended approval as written with a unanimous vote. So.
Questions or comments from the committee? Mr. Russell.
So the C2, it's almost that we're kind of grandfathering in. So the C2 comes with a conditional use, correct? It's not like Seiferd has to come and get a conditional use to run their shop on the C2.
Correct.
Okay.
Comes with it.
But Seiferd 10 years, 20 years down the road could sell, and that could be developed into any other C2 use, correct?
Correct.
Does that give you heartburn?
We discussed it internally a lot. What ultimately, one, I would say when we are annexing from a unzoned area, there will be anomalies, things that have existed for 40, 50 years, etc. I am not in favor. I am generally in most every case, if we're assigning zoning or changing zoning, I like to go with the zoning that best fits what's being used there. If we only will give them residential, it will cause them issues on how they can use their property. And it potentially, in my view, could be considered a taking. You go from, I'm able to do this, to now I'm restricted And then, so those are kind of the challenges with annexing from an unzoned township. What ultimately gave me comfort is, if they expand any of those buildings, or if the site plan changes, they have to come before the city of Findlay. And that's where the city of Findlay can prescribe some pretty serious buffers between the neighborhood and the proposed use. Let's say it's a McDonald's. Even though it's permitted use, we could prescribe a 20-foot, 30-foot buffer due to the nature of the neighborhood. So that's ultimately those two items. One, we're inheriting a unique item. I think it's appropriate to give them what they're being used for now instead of taking some of their rights. And if there's a change in the future, we will get a chance to look at it and help protect the neighborhood through City Planning Commission.
And I appreciate that that explanation, especially on the philosophy on bringing in something that's unzoned. And it was the intensity of use that I was most concerned with that comes with a C2. And I was just thinking of more intense use shopping. McDonald's is a good example, because Seifert, if they expand, it's still not going to be a real intense use, I wouldn't think.
Correct.
Understood. Appreciate that.
Any other questions or comments from the committee? Mr. Hellman.
Thank you. I had one concern when I saw this, and it along the lines of what Councilman Russell was saying. So this will end up remaining this way ad infinitum, forever, because we cannot change it back or restrict any of the
Correct.
growth or future development.
I mean, so it'll be zoned C2, which is appropriate for Seifert's use.
For today, yeah.
Yes. So they have right to that use, and they can
Understand.
continue to use it in that manner.
I understand.
Now, if they expand the buildings by 10%, et cetera, they have to come to City Planning Commission. So if there's really any changes to how it's being used, the city will get to weigh in on that.
But to my way of thinking was 20, 30 years down the road, it's may well not be consistent with the development around it,
Correct.
correct?
But I would say it already is not consistent with the developer.
Understand.
But to your point, it
Right.
will stay like that unless they voluntarily rezone it to like residential or something like that.
Which I would think would be highly unlikely. My concern is the intensity of the use in years ahead.
Correct. And that was our concern too. And my response to that is if a retail place or shopping center or something wanted to locate there, City Planning Commission, and staff looking at it, we'd look at the proximity to the residential. And, it says there's a 15-foot setback, but City Planning Commission could put greater standards upon that to make sure that the neighborhood's protected. So it can remain like this forever. If they expand it, city gets a say in it. So that's the comfort that I have, is that the next time it comes in for a big expansion or a change of use, the city will get to weigh in on it. And we, obviously we can see there's a neighborhood there, and that we'd want to protect the neighborhood from that use. We probably can't say no to the use, but we can put conditions to help protect the health, safety, and welfare.
My concern, I guess, is the visibility, the way it looks, the appearance from the street, traffic, ingress and egress and things like that in the future. It isn't going to be consistent with the rest of the street frontage for the most part. There's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah, I mean, I have a real hard time, they have a C2 use in saying, well, it has to be R2. And then they're really, they went from having, I can do this, I can do that, to being restricted. I can't expand my business. I can't do this. That could be considered a taking by the government. We're taking some of their rights away. So in this case, I feel it's most appropriate. It's been there for years.
I understand.
So that's the thinking of the staff.
Thank you.
Share your same concerns. I just don't think that it's necessarily in our power to kind of limit them as we discussed.
Understand.
But-
Thank you.
But I think what makes it better for you, if I let me know if I get it wrong, is that we approve. If we say we approve it now, we at least have a say in what happens with it later, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean,
If they want to change it or do anything else with it.
yeah, I mean, in terms of a neighbor, right now they can convert that to any use under the sun. Well, I apologize. Allen Township does have zoning, but for many years it was unrestricted on what it could be used for. So, being within the city of Findlay, it will have zoning, and the city will have say on the form and function, not necessarily the use, but the form and function of it.
Should it change?
Mhm.
Okay. Mr. Russell?
And as Matt said, there's not a really good alternative.
Yeah.
The residential would be a major burden on the applicant. And obviously, I'm assuming the applicant is agreeable to the proposed zoning.
Yes, this is the zoning they submitted
Okay.
after discussing it with us.
Move to approve, recommend approval as requested.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any further discussion? Motion and a second. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, we will move on to, well, I guess we don't necessarily have zoning, okay. Okay, we will go to item number 4. We did discuss that, proposed zoning permit and fee adjustments.
Jeez, oh man. Okay, I'll start the conversation off, if I may. As a lot of the different departments that have revenue coming in, just looking at expenses as well as revenues, looking at the workload associated with some of the things that are being done. Zoning fees was their turn to actually get evaluated. And working with Eric and myself, we sat down and looked at the operating expenses for the department as they've continued to increase. But not only that, but where we stack up with the fees associated with the different permits that are being issued for different work in the community. As you can see, there have the itemized list. And really, just looking at how we measure up against other zoning enforcement areas, like the different townships that actually do this as well. So that was a redlined version, and this is really where I wanted the discussion to come around, like how we got to where our proposal is on that original page. So what we did is we did a 3-year comparison look back from 22, 23, and 24, and there was a lot of variability for those 3 years. And there are a number of reasons why it could have been that way. But so trying to create an apple-to-apple comparison, we took those 3 years and actually created a 3-year average, trying to eliminate the variability, just to try to get true numbers. And so the larger spreadsheet that is on here, and you also have a copy in front of you, there's a lot of columns here, but essentially the first large scale is a 3-year average of 22, 23, and 24 with their current price list for the different zoning fee or the fees or permits that are issued. The color variation is you have the black numbers are flat fees, and then the red ones that are highlighted are actually because there's a square footage formula associated with that. So that number can move a bit based on square footage that's assessed to the permit. So we take that and you actually get your 3-year, your revenue associated with that across the 3-year average of the permits issued. And then we took Eric talking to different organizations and people that do this and looking at the market, came up with a proposed price increase. And as you can see, some changed and some remain the same. And there, I'll let him talk to some of that because he's the subject matter expert on going out and actually working with these things. But it does, the 3-year average, if we take the proposed price, it does increase our revenue, and it does bridge that gap a bit for covering expenses. But as I pointed out in the letter that I sent to you, we're not trying to lead the market here, and we're not trying to compare ourselves. Oh, we're much less than the other people, so we need to raise our rates. That's not what the intent is here. And even the proposed increase of fees is significantly less than these other areas around us that are issuing the similar permits. So we were able to, again, increase the revenue and bridge that gap. We also wanted to show what 2025 actual year-to-date looks like, which is the third set of columns to the right, with current pricing, actual issued permits, and where we are year-to-date. And then, of course, trying to compare as many different data points on what looks. The next section of columns is the proposed with the proposed to compare to year-to-date 25. And then the third one, or the final column or section of columns, is kind of like that. Sorry, you're moving. I appreciate you moving those with me. The far right columns is, all right, what would it look like if we really went out and tried to actually compare ourselves to the other municipalities and their fee structures? And that essentially would be tripling our current fee structure. Now, I'm not suggesting that. I just wanted to show comparison data and what that would do if you actually take our existing average permits on an annual basis and compare it to that tripling the current fee structure. That's a significant price increase or revenue increase for us, but it still doesn't break even for the zoning department. So again, it's just a measuring stick to kind of show where we currently are, and we are not covering our expenses, not even close, but we haven't had a rate change in 15 years or better. So costs continue to go up. I sound like every time I come with a rate increase, it's the same messaging. Costs have went up, labor costs have gone up, everything has moved, and our rates remain flat. We still want to remain that customer-centric service to the community. We don't want to overcharge people for what we're doing because that's not the intent of this. But I feel we're in a situation where we have to move the needle a little bit so we can not absorb all those costs as they go up. So again, this was the first proposal. The red line this is our current with the red line changes to our fee schedule. Again, proposed would be the first group of columns, and then there's obviously other ones that we can discuss. So without rambling on too much more, that's a quick version of what we're here to discuss today. Do you want to add anything to that?
Mr. DeArmond?
Thank you. What is triple OG? What does OG stand for?
That's the original pricing.
Oh, like
What
the
we currently
original
have.
Gangster.
Yeah, so I just tripled that number
Okay,
just
all
to give an
So,
idea what that would look like.
What are the costs to run this department roughly? You're saying 178 grand doesn't get you there. It's like 200, 300.
Our budget for operating budget for his department's around 300,000. Now there's some turn in, so we anticipate it to be less than that.
Yeah.
But the original ask is a little over 300,000.
Okay. So we're proposing to get to
Look,
90 grand.
if I may, I apologize for the back static on this. Again, I don't expect to get to where we anticipate in one rate change, but I'd like to try to move the needle if we can to get to what we want to accomplish over time.
Yeah. This reminds me of the water rate increase conversations. I mean, it's just gone on for so long.
There's a lot of those conversations.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, yeah.
I welcome this discussion, honestly, because I think with the way that the fee structure stands now, in some instances, we're not even covering our staff and administrative time to handle those. But so that's that. I guess that's all I would say. But I think it's Mr. Russell, did you have any additional comments or question?
You have penalty 1 and penalty 2, work without a permit, sign without a permit, no, in the spreadsheet, no dollar figures. And then on this, I see that the fees will be triple.
Yep.
Is the fees will be
So
triple
anytime,
something?
yep. So anytime anybody in the city does work without a permit, and they get caught by us, there is a triple fee that's associated with that work without construction without a permit. So it's
Is
in our
that-
zoning code.
That's current.
It's triple the
that's-
fee. So if it's a fence permit right now and it's $30, and they get caught putting up a fence without a permit, it's $90.
Okay.
So it's triple the $30 fee.
Which in essence is no penalty on a.
Correct.
It's been that way for as long as at least 20 years.
But why don't we and then you just roll that into the fence permit line on the big spreadsheet, on the comparison spreadsheet?
I can give you those numbers if you want them.
Nope.
But again, we are open to your suggestions. This is what we would like to see.
I've read many a year of BZA cases where the citizens know that it is better to take a shot at it and get it done without you finding them. And triple a $30 fee or triple a $50 fee. It's worth it to give it a shot.
Consensus, say yes.
And if I may add to that, in our discussions that, working with some of the industry growth that's coming in that's not unique to Findlay, when Eric and his team are out there and the fees that are associated with it, it's very, very inexpensive to do business here. And again, we're not trying to change that mindset, but we feel there's an opportunity that we need to start covering more of our costs.
I think it's good that it's inexpensive to do business here. We should encourage that. But you have to, I think, covering some of the operating budget also makes sense, because in essence, if you don't do it by the fees, you do it by everybody in the city chips in their income tax. I'm just wondering if, philosophically, do departments like this recover more of their costs through their service fees?
Can you say that a different
I'm
way?
not sure
I want to make sure I understood what your point was. I'm sorry.
It's an open-ended question. If you look at other municipalities, are more of them trying to recover their operational costs that you can directly assign to specific groups that receive benefit from that department, or do they try to recover that cost through fees and stuff? So if you had a widget inspection department, and all they did was inspect widgets that were created in town, you would charge the entire budget for that widget department to folks getting widget fees. Or you wouldn't. In our case, we're doing about, the proposal is currently we're getting about 20%,
Yeah, we're going from 20% to 30%.
and should be going from 20% to 40.
Yeah, yeah.
So to your point, before we move on, I mean, that when we, again, we've talked about water rates, we've talked about different utility rates, talking about parking fines, and
Yeah.
a lot of conversations about fines and fees lately. And when we go out and do some analysis and talk to different communities like ours, bigger, smaller, even like ours in Ohio and whatnot, to your point, costs are covered by the fines, fees, et cetera. Recreation, another example when it comes to things. And again, we recognize this. We're trying to move the needle. I don't want to move the needle to the point where to even get to the halfway point of covering the operating expense, proposed operating expenses, which would be the tripling. That's significant. And I think there
No,
will
we
be
can't go
now
there.
this administration, we're going to be more calculated in looking at these as expenses go up and continue to be purposeful to get where we need to be. And I don't know what that runway looks like, but we recognize it, and this is the first step. And that's why we're here to talk about the proposal and get guidance and feedback on how you feel we should move forward.
Mr. Hellman.
I had a similar question. Is it your intent that we would be at that point to cover the expenses within a 10-year period, 5-year period, 20-year period, or is there no end game in sight?
Based on the last 10 years working in the business world, I don't know if I can look too far past that. I mean, there's so many unknowns and landmines between now and then, but the intent is to look at the market, look at what our costs are, how they're going up, and what pace they are, and see if we can bridge that gap. But where we're starting at and where it is, there's a lag. So based on where we want to go, if we want to cover all cost, there's an impact associated with the people that want to do business in the city of Findlay with that. And we just want to be cognizant of that. Again, I'm not sure I wanted to make a move. I'm not sure on how aggressive I wanted to be this time. I wanted to get a reaction from all of you. We can actually go back to the drawing board if there's recommendations.
I guess my opinion is you can do it purposefully and gradually, but eventually I think it would be nice to be there to cover your cost, or at least, a good percentage of it, and be somewhat consistent with other communities. I don't think we need to be the lowest, rung on the ladder in terms of fees and fines and things like that, no.
Literature that I read, the best practice standard would be to cover most, if not all, of your expenses if there is a revenue stream associated with that service being provided. So we recognize that, and this is one that's lagged behind. Again, this is decade-plus old information that we're trying to
Understand?
move the needle on.
I guess I would just say continue onward
Miss-
and upward.
Noted.
Thank you.
Mr. DeArmond.
I would say, if anything, we're not aggressive enough. I think just going from covering our costs from 20% to 30%. I mean, it's still a 50% increase, but it's still, 30% is not aggressive. So, I could live with this as long as we come back next year and the year after. And, we can't wait another, 5 years and then, you know what I mean? So, I don't know what you're, I would be okay if you went from 20% to 40% too, just double it, And these costs. If you're doing business, does a few $100s on a permit? I don't know. I don't think it moves the needle really. In terms of if you're doing a project, whether you're I don't know, a couple $100s versus a few hundred. I don't think that. I don't know, but that's I just think if you want to keep it at this, then I expect you back next year. So.
Mr.
So
Martin.
some of the flat rate ones or permit fees when it comes to like residential, it stayed the same, and that was intentional. Some of the square footage ones that are highlighted in red, when they're dealing with more larger scale projects that Eric's team has to go out multiple times, and there's more cost associated with that. Those are where I think there's a better opportunity to increase those fees because of the workload and responsibility that's actually ongoing back out to those sites. So I would be happy to work with Eric to move this needle a little more aggressively this year towards, instead of 20 to 30, 20 to 40, and then really look at those fees associated with different types of work. So it's less impactful for somebody that's going to put up a deck versus
That's I suppose what I would be interested in, to kind of see some more comparisons with an eye towards the future, and perhaps a little more self-reliance from on the department's behalf, and not so much on the general operating budget, that sort of thing. Mr. Russell.
Looking at this, you have a column for single family, you have a column for 2 and 3 family, and then you have what is really in essence business commercial. And then looking down through single family compared to 2 and 3 family, they're almost always they're pretty much the same until you get into the other zoning permits. I don't know why communication towers are $30 for a 2 and 3 building and $50 for a single family, because it's the only one where it's less in the other one. But I'm just wondering, why don't you just do residential accessory structure, have 3 columns, residential accessory structures and what in essence is business. So combined single family and 2 and 3 family, go with a higher number in all cases, and just treat it residential versus simplify this a little bit and in that way. So is there is it this way because that's just the way it has been, or?
That's the way it's been for a couple decades now.
Okay,
Yes.
so why not?
That makes sense. We can do that.
Would you consider going to just simply a residential accessory structure and multi-family or whatever?
Adding to that, I agree. I would say residential accessory structure, commercial, and I may consider commercial accessory structure. But yeah, I agree with that. And I think in general, residential items are a little bit easier to review and will be less expensive, and commercial items are more complex and would require a higher fee, significantly higher fee.
To the committee, how do you guys feel about the 20%, 30% going to 40, leave it at 30? I think that's really how do you guys feel about that?
I would be open to it, but I would like to see the comparisons and just kind of see what, in terms of projected, potential projected revenue, if that makes sense to you, Dan.
Sure. I think Jim went.
Mr. Niemeyer.
About time.
Sorry about that.
I think we'd rather maybe recoup 40 to 50%. Somebody said we had to come back next year. We do that a lot. Kick the can down the street. We did that ever since I've been on city council with different stuff. So I think we ought to raise them. We always can't look at what other cities are doing. That's my opinion. So, and I've had property 30 plus year, or 50 plus years.
Mr. Martin.
So I appreciate that. And that's one of the reasons we're here. If we go too big, too quick, we get a different reaction. So that's why I'm here to get your input, and I appreciate it. What I'm hearing is consolidate some of the columns and the different categories to clean it up. And then we're going to put together a couple more scenarios more aggressively. And then if it's okay with you all, that we bring it back to the next P&Z for another conversation to finalize it and clean it up.
That works for me.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you for your input.
Do we need a motion to continue discussion? I'm blanking.
We're recommending nothing to council, so I wouldn't recommend anything to council.
Okay.
Let's do farm animals.
Okay, we will go. Next item on the agenda, we will go to the farm animals regulations.
Did we have bicycles on this today? Oh, that was streets. No, forget it. Different committee.
I don't think we ever had one.
No, that
Okay.
sidewalks and parking. I saw
So-
them refinery.
Concern.
Discussing farm animals. So we discussed it a little bit last week, or last month. I did make some changes. A rough recap, we have no prohibitions on the keeping of farm animals within the city. We do receive fairly consistent and a number of complaints, especially about roosters, et cetera. We don't track I don't personally track the number of complaints. Hey, my neighbor has a rooster, it crows every morning. I'm like, sorry, we don't have a prohibition against farm animals, could be a potential noise violation, if you'd like to pursue that. So we don't have anything against, no prohibitions against farm animals. We did a research of many other communities and how they deal with it. We kind of ended up, most communities separate it into small, medium, and large, and there are different regulations according to the size of the animal. In general, ours is small animals, which, to start off, small animals, chicken, ducks, rabbits, etc. They have to have coops and cages, they have to have enclosure, they have to be set back 5 feet from the property line. No more than one such animal on a parcel of land for each 800 square feet. So the larger lots you have, the more chickens, et cetera, you could have, with a maximum of 24. There is a prohibition on roosters, geese, and turkeys on lots less than 1 acre. And then we moved to medium, and that's where we had some comments last month. I did increase the size of the required lot to 1 acre, so no such animal shall be kept on a parcel of land less than 1 acre, and this is for goats, sheep, and similar items, similar animals that are less than 500 pounds. And then you get 2 such additional animals with each additional 10,000 square foot of property that you have. I clarified the fencing. All farm animals shall be contained within a fenced enclosure. Such fencing shall be located only within the rear yard, and it must be set back 40 feet from the side and rear property lines. So that was clarification about the fencing, and they also are required to have an enclosure. And really, the large animal is similar, other than we increased the size of the lot to have horses, cows, pigs, or larger animals. You must have at least 3 acres, and you must have a fence. You get 2 additional animals for each additional acre that you have. That's a mistake. You get, 2 additional animals for each acre that you have, up to a maximum of 6. You are required to have a fence, and that fence is required to be set back 40 feet from the property lines, and the stable or building must be 100 feet from, or, I apologize, fence must be 40 feet from any property line and no closer than 100 feet to any dwelling located on an adjacent parcel. And then we have some general sanitation and nuisance requirements, and then we do have some storage of waste requirements. Waste storage areas shall be located at least 50 feet from any property line, 100 feet from any water source or private well, 100 feet from any stream, drainage ditch, or wetland. And then, let's see. The manure, waste, etc., must be collected and stored in a watertight, rodent-proof, fly-resistant container or structure. So there are some standards for the storage of manure. And then I'd say most importantly, for those people that currently have animals, there is a grandfather clause. And essentially, if you have 50 chickens today that you keep, you have a period of time, right now it's 90 days after the passage of this ordinance, to come into the city, fill out a permit, declare, hey, I've got 50 chickens. We'll come out, take a look. Yes, you have 50 chickens, and then you are grandfathered to keep 50 chickens essentially forever, and it runs with the land unless you stop keeping chickens for a period of 12 months. So I have 50 chickens. I sell my house to Jake. Jake does not keep chickens for 2 years. He's not a chicken guy. That grandfathering is then forever lost after 1 year of, so Jake can't sell it back to me and I can't start up my 50 chickens. Once you discontinue it for 12 months, then the grandfathering is lost. So, you know, in my mind, when I look at this ordinance, yes, it puts standards on farm animals. But it also provides a path for people who currently have farm animals to continue having them as they have today. So when I look at it, I think it's pretty fair. You know, if you're starting up farm animals a year from now, you have to meet these standards. If you've had farm animals, you can continue to do so. Just in regards to, we did a lot of research over the years on this, but you know, we looked at 117 cities in Ohio. 34 cities prohibit farm animals outright. You are not allowed to have any farm animals, no chickens, nothing. 19 cities out of the 117 remain silent. And that means, and I put Findlay in that category. We don't say you can't, we don't say you can. We're silent on the item. And then 64 do allow farm animals. But I would say of those 64, and I created the list here, I would say, you know, there's 20 of them that even if you're keeping a chicken, you have to have at least 1 acre. So I'd say of the 64 that we looked at, many of them are much more strict than what we're proposing. So I just provide this as context. When I look at what we're proposing and what many other cities across the state do, we're still being very permissive. And so, you know, and I think it's, and you could tell me, Matt, let's not be permissive. Let's be very strict, and we can go that way. But this is the way that we've been trending with this over the last couple of years.
Mr. Good.
And then, you know, we looked at, and then I just provided a bunch of examples of what other communities do in terms of how manure has to be handled in their community. So, with me giving a summary, are there any questions about proposed farm animals?
Mr. Hellman?
As you went through this, I'm wondering, who administers this? Who's the chicken counter? Is there somebody on staff that goes around and does this?
So,
I mean,
Mr. Eric Atkins?
you want to answer?
all right.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to try to sneak this in before the discussion started. You know, from my eyes, there's two considerations here. There is having something on the books so you can enforce it. And an example coming from a prosecutor is, you know, if we don't have any rules at all, we can't even write an nastygram saying, hey, we've had some complaints about your property. It'd be nice if you do something, you know, come see us, talk to us about what's right and what's not. And without any rules, you don't have that option. The flip side of that is there's always a reminder that there are civil remedies that people have. So when you get an out of control neighbor who's doing something really bad, you don't need to look for your city or your village to do something about it. You yourself can do something about it. So if you get somebody who decides they want to own 5 horses on too small of a lot, there's things that can be done by that homeowner, and they don't have to look to particular rules and how they were drafted and who enforces them. So I would just keep that in mind. But I don't know if the city, if we implement these, I don't know that the city, I wouldn't get too deep about the enforcement of it, because it's going to be, and I believe I'm correct in this, Matt, the theory, it's going to be so we can address the real bad problem. I don't think anybody's going out to look for it, but when there is the problem, then we have rules we can enforce, and we have penalties, which this doesn't have any penalties in it, but there would be a penalty section.
So to expand on Dennis's question, for the first 90 days, we will be chicken counters, confirming the grandfathering. you know, if someone says they have 400 chickens, we have to go out and see, well, you're not keeping 400 chickens. You can't just kind of inflate your grandfathering. After that, it's really, in general, it is complaint driven. We get a complaint, you know, my neighbor's keeping hogs and they're destroying everything. That's when we go out there. You know, we're not out there, you know, peeking in people's backyards. You know, I've spoken with people who have a lot of chickens, and you would never ever know that they have chickens. And that's, you know, that's not what we're after. We're after, again, we have received complaints, we can then go out and react to it. But for the first 90 days, we will be chicken and horse and pig counters, verifying the grandfather. After that, we receive a complaint, we'll look at the address file. Well, they're grandfathered in. Hey, you're within your rights. Just to let you know, you've had a complaint about noise, you know, please try to keep things in line. So, or they're not grandfathered, we go out there, you have to meet these standards. We'll give you 90 days to meet these standards.
Okay, thank you both.
Yep.
Mr. Russell?
Question for the law director. On the civil penalties, or on the, you gave two examples or 2 points, and on your second point on the ability to have civil suit, does that ability to have civil suit depend upon having some kind of legislation, something on the books that you can refer to, or is that available to everybody right now? Is that a remedy available to the citizens now?
You would not need to have something on the books to pursue, civil. Would be an injunction is probably what you'd be looking for from a court of law. If you had rules in place and wanted to pursue it civilly, it would certainly make it easier because you could point to an exact violation if you can prove it. And in a civil court, it's easier, the burden's less than in a criminal court. So it would help in the civil realm, but you don't need it for a property owner to seek an injunction against his neighbor who's getting out of control.
Mr. Niemeyer?
I think, I don't think we really have a problem right now. And this has been going on, most of us know, for years. I live in the same place where I grew up. My lot is bigger than the one behind. There were 1 or 2 horses all the time, which was no big deal. See residential back then. As Denny said, a chicken counter, now we're gonna need somebody on poop patrol. I've had 3 chicken complaints in the 6th ward in 11 years. I had dog complaints, tons of cat complaints, and know people that have chickens, you'd never know they have them. Just a while back behind the mall, wasn't there different farm animals? Behind the Volkswagen place, somebody residential, they have a 6-foot vinyl fence, and the poop is terrible. You know, we need to do something with these domestic animals, I think. You know, instead of biting off this big. And I have just about a ½ acre of land where I live, and I have plenty of room for some chickens or 2 goats if I wanted or something like that, so. And again, how many properties are acreage in the city limits? I think I know 2 that are, one's 5 acres and one's maybe 3. One's about 3 acres, and so I don't think we're gonna have trouble with farm animals that you need a lot of land for. But again, we need to have the law director get with the prosecutor and get something in case a problem does show up. I mean, we were all around earlier this year when the dog took down a horse out by Emory Adams, so I think the law director should get with the prosecutor and we'll come back with a lot easier solution.
Mr. DeArmond?
I was just curious, what kind of complaints does the city get? Or do you get a lot of complaints, or what's the level of concern?
Around fair season, we'll get a lot of calls about horses and donkeys, and can they have them on their property? Answer is yes right now, because there's nothing on the books that say they can't.
What, because county folks bring it into the city and they have friends and they just...
And parents hope that we tell the kid no, so the kid will call us and say, hey, can I get a donkey? Yeah.
All right. Okay, so around
The
fair
other-
time, okay.
The other one, probably an average, maybe 2 to 3 times a week, there'll be something about roosters, there'll be something about fowl, and not all of that's covered underneath our current city code.
Actually, that was one of the comments I had. The roosters can be loud and annoying, but yet they're treated like they are small, but it seems to me that we should put the rooster in the large animal, just so there's more setback. And, I know they're small, but just they're noisy and and the annoyance factor is higher, than a small animal. But
Of the 64 communities that have farm animal ordinances, most of them either outright prohibit, I'd say that the majority of them prohibit them outright.
roosters. I'd be in favor of that. I think roosters, even though they're small, I think they're different,
I'd say roosters are the majority of the farm animal complaints.
Well then, okay, well, there
I
you
know
go.
we just,
So let's focus
I
on
just
that.
had one, I believe Monday, and just said, sorry, we can't help you. Yes.
So that one Monday that's one this month?
What's that?
No, he's saying.
A rooster complaint, you have one a month,
Oh, we get them a couple times a week,
a couple times a week?
but it's usually repeat offenders. And you go out to the property and can't do nothing really. A nuisance complaint possibly, but
Well then, I think we need to address the roosters differently here. If that's the number one issue, then we can't treat them like a regular chicken.
the worst case that we've ever had though was a property in 2nd Street, 3rd Street, somewhere down there, those streets. They were slaughtering chickens in the backyard, about 200 at a time.
Fifth Street,
Is it? Yeah. You know about that one?
yeah.
So that was the worst case. And that's where the conversation really began to start, because at that time, Mayor Mahalik discovered that there was nothing in our city code that really we could do but rely on the health department to say, yeah, that's a noxious odor. We were able to shut them down because of them running a business in a residential area. But 200 chickens at one time, that's a lot of chickens.
That's a little overboard.
Mr. Russell?
Jim, your last comment said the law director should get with the prosecutor, and the law director just said that having something like this on the books gives him the ability to pursue. And that's in that sense. I mean, I agree with Matt's summation of it. The majority of the folks that we have now are of no concern. Of the folks that I know who have barnyard animals, they don't generate complaints because they're conscientious folks about how they towards their neighbors. But I think I recently heard about somebody in town who got tired of the chickens and just kind of let them go, and so the neighborhood started complaining that they had chickens all over the place. Now I heard about this. I didn't see it. Nobody called me about it, so it might have been urban myth, urban legend. But you do on occasion run across folks who want to make who will have disregard for their neighborhood and make it very difficult to live next to them. And that was the case with the person who was running the slaughtering yard thing in her yard. Is that the neighbors complained because of the stench, that the person couldn't live in their house because of the odor. And we just happened to, I don't want to say luck out, but got creative and shut them down on the business in a residential thing. Well, what if it's just 10 chickens and they just never clean up after it? So the neighbor has to move. I mean, or they go at them civilly. Well, now if you have this in place, at least when they go at them civilly, they have something, they have some teeth to go at them with. So I think it's a step in the right direction, and it treats the existing folks who have been running, who have had farmyard animals and have been doing it well, the folks that you mentioned, Jim, and it treats them fairly by grandfathering them and their property forever until a 1 year break. So it's not even a takings on the usage of the property, because the next property owner can buy the small animal infrastructure that they've developed on their property. I think that's one of the better parts of this. And on a side, I don't know why roosters get such a bad rap, but barking dogs don't. Because what's the difference? What's a rooster and a barking dog? The thing that bothers you the most is the same. And believe me, I've heard a lot of barking dogs. People might say that I have had one or two of them that are as much of a problem as a rooster. But we have kind of a split, because I think, Denny, I'd be interested in your view, because I think I'd be interested in your view, because I think it's the exact 100% opposite of Jim's view.
I guess I like the comment that was made that, if you've got 3 or 4 complaints a week about roosters, I'd go after that issue. There's no sense in going after a egg-laying hen if she isn't a problem. It's in terms of maintaining the number, to a dozen or half dozen, whatever the number is. Dogs, I understand the issue there. I don't know, dogs are such an ingrained part of our society. I don't know how you're going to eliminate the family dog. It'd be like eliminating one of your children. I don't have a dog and don't have children, but I can imagine the complaints you'd get if you did.
The dog is much easier.
And probably less expensive. That's just my opinion. I don't see where you would get a big uproar if you eliminated roosters. And they're out to address Councilman Russell's issues. I don't know how many dogs are out barking at 5 o'clock in the morning like roosters are crowing. So I have had neither, so I can't address it.
Denny, I thought previously when you mentioned that there was 34, when he mentioned there was 34 cities that prohibited farm animals, you thought that was the solution we should go with. So I must have misheard you, because that would be the exact opposite view of Jim. Jim says let it go. And I thought that you were saying no, just prohibit them totally.
I'd consider that. I'd have a discussion about that, eliminating them. If you're coming into the city, you can't have farm animals.
Mr. Niemeyer?
So, no worse than the other day, 5:30, a garbage truck. You're gonna have things now and then. But anyway, I think we need a recommendation so we can get out of here. I'd make a motion for city council, or just have the law director work with the prosecuting attorneys and get something, and we could pass some type of ordinance, like, this goes back to the horse-dog situation.
Would some type of ordinance be like the ordinance that's in front of us? Because this is.
It's a farm animal
This
ordinance.
is the definition of something.
This
Because
is
if that is a recommendation of sending this ordinance to the full council, Jim, I'll join you in that.
I'm sorry, what was that?
If that is a recommendation to take this ordinance and send it to the full council for consideration, I'll join you, and I'll second that motion. But I'm not sure that's what you were motioning.
I think we should wait and see what the law director and prosecutors do. And we'll have something more firmed up for all of city council. Sometimes there's interesting votes that come out of city council. We all know that. And you give them something before the meeting, you know, to read, and we won't go there. But farm animals, I just don't think it's a huge issue in the city of Finley.
Brian, can I be heard?
Go ahead.
Jim, I don't know what you're asking exactly for me and my staff to come up with a different proposal. I didn't come up with this one, or a proposal just to eliminate roosters, or what I'm not sure what direction you want me to head with any new documents.
Well, maybe just have something in case we get 5 complaints about a certain place or something like that. You know, we need something to actually come down and, you know, so they do something about it. None of us want to live next door to the barking dog or the loud garbage truck or the rooster.
I suppose what I would say is, from where I sit, I think that the language presented to us is a step in the right direction, and I think as far as the prohibitions that were discussed, those are addressed in this piece of legislation. But before we go any further, Mr. Martin?
You're going down the same thought process that I was. I was going to add that I don't have the numbers in front of me of the complaints. They come and go. They're seasonal. And to the point where we started the conversation originally with the law director about having something established that is there, not to necessarily go out once we get through the original counting sector, the process. It's not something we're going to go out and police, but it's something in place that we can actually, if there is a problem, we can say, hey, this is in writing and we should really try to clean something up. So I don't want to take your words or put words in your mouth, Councilman Niemeyer, but I think what's in front of us is accomplishing what you want. Your area, you're saying there's not a big problem over the years, and that's great, but we do hear of other areas in the Finley that do have problems, and this gives us that framework that we can address them when they're necessary.
Mr. Russell?
Jim, you mentioned garbage trucks twice. We have ordinances against garbage trucks operating before a certain hour. I thought it was 6 o'clock.
It is 6 o'clock.
So the 5:30 if you have that complaint, find out who it is, and we have ways to address it, because we had legislation placed in front of a council and they approved it. A question for Mr. Feiner: did you review this ordinance?
This farm one?
Yes.
Sure did.
Any heartburn from where you sit, or are you?
I made some comments initially when I first reviewed this for Matt, and I gave those considerations to him, so I don't recall what they all were. This final product could certainly, I don't see any problem enforcing it as a prosecutor. I guess one thing I would just remind council, having been a prosecutor for 26 years, sometimes we get a request for charges on a odd topic, an odd offense that we don't see very often. And generally, whoever's bringing that to us, whether it's zoning or a police officer or a sheriff or the dog warden or whatever it might be, is we take a step back and go, well, let's talk with the people first. Let's write them a letter. Let's put them on notice. There's a problem. There's a right way to do what they're doing. Sometimes that gets done right out of the gate, but sometimes it just gets done by our office. And I don't want to say publicly we can have our own laws in the books and not enforce them, but we can have our laws in the books and choose how to enforce them. But if somebody is letting their property get out of control without having something like this, then the city can't address it, and then you're just leaving that property owner to their own civil remedies, which can be fine. But having something gives us something to, I guess, something to work with for the worst of the worst. And I would highly recommend not having any city official out and driving around enforcing this, and I guess that's clearly not the intent. But if we do need to enforce it, we would have something.
Mr. DeArmond?
Couple of questions. I'm back on the roosters still. All right. So, if the complaints you're getting, are those roosters on 1 acre? I'm back kind of rereading the prohibition. So they have to be on a 1 acre. So would they be legal roosters or illegal roosters? The most of those complaints you're getting.
They're in the neighborhoods.
They're in the neighborhoods. Okay,
the
that would-
80
so-
by 100 lots. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
The 80 by 100 lots.
Okay. So right. All right. So, all right. So they don't get grandfathered. Roosters don't get grandfathered. So if
Yes.
they're
Yes. So roosters get everything. So everything gets grandfathered. I mean, so the people that take care of their animals well and the people that take care of their animals poorly, if they apply for the grandfathering, they get grandfathered. So the roosters will stay. They get grandfathered. Yes. That's the essence of grandfathering.
until that rooster dies and they can replace that rooster?
Essentially, until they stop, again, we're not going to, the extreme is that you have 6 chickens and 1 rooster. And for 1 year, you only have 4 chickens and 1 rooster. Well, you're grandfathered in for 6 chickens and 1 rooster. So forever, you're allowed to have 6 chickens and 1 rooster until you cease operation for a year. Grandfather, the city is not all knowing, and, generally, grandfathering is it's quite obvious. You sold the house and for 5 years it's been a new owner. No, there's been no, it's that kind of,
All right.
but yes, all horses, pigs, roosters, etc., if they file for
I get you.
the
Okay.
grandfathering and get it on record, they are grandfathered. If they don't file for the grandfathering, I could see some of them saying, "Oh, I missed the deadline." They'd have to go to BZA to try to get right. That's why I say it's very important. If this were to pass, it's very important for current animal owners to file for the permit for the grandfather.
Okay.
I'm not,
Mr. Niemeyer.
So if we go ahead with this, everybody's grandfathered, right away, the property owners now, and then
If they file.
the new property owner would have to apply.
no. So, my property, I have 6 chickens. I sell it to Jake. He has the right to have 6 chickens, but if he's not an animal person and if you discontinue a use for a year, you lose the grandfather.
Okay.
But if I keep 6 chickens and 5 roosters for 20 years, and I sell it to Jake and he keeps 6 chickens and 5 roosters for 60 years, that grandfathering could go for 80 years, 100 years, 120 years. The general thought with grandfathering is it's a fair way to slowly eliminate non-conforming uses. Yes, someone may say, I want all animals out of the city today. That's not necessarily fair. So grandfathering is a fair way to slowly eliminate non-conforming uses. Now, under this code, I can go out and I can establish keeping chickens. There's rules. So when we get a complaint and someone's grandfathered, we'd probably just send them a letter letting them know, hey, you're legal under the law, but we have received complaints. You may want to consider addressing this complaint, but we will not forcefully go after it. I hope that helps explain what grandfathering is.
Mr. Russell.
So if I live at a property that currently, let's say this gets passed and isn't enforced, or is on the books, and I have a property that is not grandfathered, has not previously had farm animals, and I now want to keep a chicken or two or three, I come down to the city and down to City Hall and get a permit for that. Is that correct? I'm trying to what's this process?
Correct.
Get a permit. Does Eric then come out and inspect the facility that I'm going to be using? Is there a, how, for that startup, how's that process?
I typically take care of the chicken coops and how big the area is on the property.
But would you inspect upon a permit?
I don't know if we've talked about a fee or anything with a permit or not, and I don't know if we were putting this in the zoning department umbrella under the zoning code or not. I think that we were looking to put this in the general section of our codes. That way, if enforcement does fall underneath me or a designee of the service safety director, it can be enforced by pretty much anybody, health department,
Okay.
PD. So that's something that we would want to discuss.
Yeah, I just wondered how that would particularly work. I think there's a general disagreement in a philosophy as to how to address this, just amongst the five and probably amongst the whole of council, which is why we struggle on what our next step is here.
So-
I've heard from the law director that says having this provides tools for the city to enforce, to help with the livability in the rare situations where somebody keeping farmyard animals as not being a good neighbor. It's a tool in the tool chest, and without it, the only remedy is civilly one neighbor against another neighbor, which is never a particularly good situation. But at least with this, it gives us the power to. It gives the city the ability to contact somebody in question and say, "Hey, we have these rules in effect. Can you come into compliance?" It doesn't necessarily have to be a ticketing situation, but it gives us a tool to work towards that in the rare case where you need it. I think that's a good direction to go. It'd be interesting to then the devil's in the details. I think this would be interesting to hear what the whole council thinks of the general idea. I think that Matt, even reading through here, saw some things that he'd want to clean up. There's some discussion on roosters. Be interested what some of the folks that have barnyard animals think about the specifics in it before it became legislation. But I think this is worth proceeding and taking it to the full council for their consideration. Maybe not in the form of legislation, but in the form of a discussion point, maybe as a committee as a whole, maybe at a council meeting. But I think we should proceed. This is a good starting point.
Just a point of clarification, the only permit needed would be to apply for the grandfather. So if you wanted to start your six chickens, then you need to, if someone called and said, "Hey, I want to keep 4 chickens on my property," we would give them a copy of the code and say, "These are the rules that you have to follow." There would not be a permitting process.
Mr. Hellman?
I guess I'm in favor of having something, but I've got a question. I thought this was going to be under the zoning department. Am I misunderstanding that?
What's that?
I said I'm in favor of having some kind of an ordinance that kind of regulates this stuff or monitors it, but
Yeah,
it is-
I was
thought this-
anticipating it being in the zoning code.
Okay, that's where I was thinking as well, as opposed to accounting or something like that. Gotcha.
Mr. DeArmond?
I'm in agreement with Grant. I'm in favor of advancing this to full council. Clean it up, whatever, make your edits and.
I'm fine with that, too.
Mr. Russell?
I'd recommend that we advance this proposal with Matt's edits that he had mentioned as he was looking through to the full council for general discussion, and that should not be in the form of legislation. It should be just be more, okay, let's take this conversation that we're having now to full council for their consideration, and then a full council says, yes, let's proceed to legislation, then we can go the legislation route.
I'll second that, Brian.
Good.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay. Those opposed?
If you send it down, I'll write it.
Okay. Next item on the agenda, we will do length of construction rules.
Okay, this one's pretty clear cut. I can't find the page, and it's too small to read, so we'll just discuss. So, on occasion, we've had issues where someone starts a project and they don't complete the project. In general, upon reviewing the code, there's no, like most cities, there's no requirement to complete a project within a certain amount of time. So we have people who keep, filing for extensions or just keep never-ending construction. So we looked at other communities and we kind of modeled after what they were looking at. Essentially, single-family and duplex residential construction shall be completed within 12 months of the date of the permit issuance. Multifamily commercial industrial construction shall be completed within 24 months of the date of permit issuance. Minor alterations shall be complete within 6 months of issuance of permit. And then the zoning official may grant an extension up to 6 months for reasonable cause if requested in writing prior to the permit's expiration date. So that's the two edits that you had me make was extending commercial industrial to 24 months, and under Part D, the zoning official may grant, it used to say one extension. And I would like to change it, the zoning official may grant extensions, plural, up to 6 months. That would give us the ability to do several extensions if needed, without having to consult someone. The one of the items that has spurred this on, there's an addition to a house on the kind of west side of town by the near the Courier, and they've been under construction for about how many years, Eric?
It's in Councilman Niedermeyer's district, so he's very
Probably
familiar with it. Probably about 7, yeah.
And upon reviewing the code, we don't feel like there's any recourse. And this would help give us recourse in that circumstance.
Mr. Russell.
There's a house on the east side of South Main Street, just south of the church, kind of south of the hotel, and that has been being painted for a while. And I know but it's the best. It
Scaffolding.
is the best paint job you will ever see. And I tried to mimic it, and it took me forever. Is that, do we consider that in here, or is it, because I don't believe he didn't get a permit in order to paint, so is this permit driven?
It's permit driven, yes. I would say something like that, and I can think of one on Cherry Street. Nice house. 3 sides of it have wonderful siding, and since my senior in college was in 2nd grade, and I used to drop them off at the Montessori school that was there, the 4th side has never had siding on it. And so that could be tackled either one of 2 ways. In the latter case, I think the example I just gave would fall more under the maintenance code, which we'll be talking about. Painting the house, I think, would fall more under the maintenance code, because you do not need a permit to paint your house. So there's no permit given, for something like that. So it doesn't fall under the time frame of construction.
Mr. DeArmond?
I'm not concerned with how do you enforce this? I guess if that guy on Sandusky, for example, he says, I just got halfway through, I ran out of money. So what are you gonna? Well, I don't know what we can do to the guy. If you had a developer gets halfway through and is bankrupt, they probably stop primarily because of lack of funding, and so you can't fine them. They don't have money. I don't know what you do.
My answer is I was going to ask the same question. So the fact patterns, I could come up with a lot of fact patterns where there could be the impossibility. So that was one of the questions I was going to ask Matt, if this was going to get fine-tuned, what the enforcement sanctions would be. It's one thing when we force people to remove a junk vehicle, or we remove it ourselves, but we're not going to go finish a paint job or do siding and then charge them back. So this gets a little bit more complicated in the enforcement world, because the guy that started the project could be dead. I don't know. There's a lot of examples here, and the finances is probably going to be a big one. You have people that get themselves in trouble in life, and they can't finish a $20,000 project, and they can sit in jail, I guess, for 30 days and come back out, and the job's still not done. So we have to think that through.
So I would say it's in the zoning code, so it's just a standard violation of the zoning code. How the city proceeds with that, I would say none of the codes I looked at address that. It's just it's a violation of the zoning. And this can apply to many zoning violations. I mean, this is not just construction. There's many zoning violations where a person finds themselves, I don't have the money to clean it up. I don't have, there's always those situations. But I'd say the converse argument is saying that there's no rules and we can't make you do anything is not also a great answer. So, there's 2 sides of it. And I think what I was tasked to do was come up with some repercussions to a never-ending project. And that's what I'd looked at.
Mr. Atkins and then Mr. Russell.
So just to give you a background of how things work with a zoning permit, it's issued is the first stage. Once that roof is on and once the walls are up, and say it's a new house, once the driveway's in, that permit's completely completed. The side, that's why we're in the issue we are with West Sandusky, is that I don't have nothing on the books right now that says, hey, you need wrapping, you need siding, you need to complete your project. That's in that next part that we're going to be looking at with the property maintenance, to where it does address those issues, to where that would get weatherized and that wouldn't end up being an eyesore by the tracks for the past 7 years. Because that house I have gotten more complaints about than most houses in the city of Findlay. But for right now, if the roof is on, walls are up, concrete pavement's in, that zoning permit's done. Unless it's commercial industrial, then they have the requirements for landscaping and other features that were approved towards City Planning Commission.
Mr. Russell.
Do we require a performance bond for commercial development?
No. For the sidewalks,
For anything?
for concrete, yes. For anything inside the right of way, yes. Anything inside property, nope.
Just, I've seen some examples where projects got stopped midway because I could think of 2 right off the top of my head. One was the steel structure was up, economy changed, company went belly up, that steel structure was there for 10 years. Another one where they got it framed and insulated on the outside, and then the lawsuits started to fly, and so they stopped work on it because they were in lawsuits. They were in court for multiple years, and it's that's what this would address. But this couldn't touch either of the situations. You can't. There's no remedy on it, especially if it's caught up in other legal issues. So from a commercial standpoint, to me, this is close to meaningless.
Mr. Atkins.
Now, the one thing that may be able to piggyback off of this is maybe the length of how many permits can be issued for a property, for a project, and then obviously if something doesn't get done or they're in the middle of a violation, that can be taken to a court for a remedy. But there is no like set amount of permits that can be issued for a project in the zoning code either. So I don't know if that's something to look off of time of construction or.
I guess my answer would be, I mean, the zoning code covers a wide swath of things, and any of those things could be caught up in court. You know, a neighbor could be fighting about the location of their shed, and the shed is a violation. But I mean, so there's always extraneous factors. So I mean, if we carry this out far enough, it's almost like, why have any rule? I mean, I don't see this as being this will not be a often used item, especially since you're 2 months away. You know, Target is at 24 months. We're not going to send them a violation and say, you're at your deadline, you know, what you going to do? And the building's almost done. But if Target is at a quarter completion 3 years from now, we sure would like to have some recourse to send them a letter and say, you are in violation. You can't do this. And they may be, they may be in bankruptcy. We can't touch it. Or the property owner may say, we need to sell this property and get done with it. But I think it's important for the city to be able to apply some pressure to someone who has a structure that's almost been abandoned.
I think the poster child for this situation, even I've gotten complaints about it, and it's not in my ward. It's adjacent to my ward, but it's down by the railroad tracks by the Courier, and I think at the very least we need to. We're starting that discussion, and it's headed in the right direction, because stuff like that can't continue, because it just continues and continues and continues, and that's being a bad neighbor.
If there's a contractor or developer, if he's in violation on this property and he comes and applies for a permit over here, I mean, did that carry across, or is that?
We don't have anything in the city of Findlay that can punish a bad contractor that has done numerous violations in the city of Findlay. No.
Yeah. So this wouldn't help that. You
Nope.
couldn't.
Mm-mm.
So I guess
Okay.
I would be kind of interested to hear what the rest of the committee thinks. Do we want to kind of continue discussions next month's meeting, or do we have any suggestions for changes, or that we haven't maybe perhaps talked about already?
I don't know, it's something on the books, but it's not. It's not the whole answer. But I don't know. I don't know what to do with it, Brian.
So I as an urban planner, I look at this. I would say 90 to 95% of all cities, a little smaller than us, our size or bigger, have a time of construction in their zoning. Will it be used often? No. Will it 100% cure all those situations? No. But in the once every 5 or 10 years that it happens, we have something to go back. That's the way I view this ordinance. It's a pretty standard clause that most cities have, and it's used infrequently. You know, if you come to us and you're half done with your construction at 24 months, we're going to give you the benefit of the doubt. It's really for the ones where you're at 24 months, it's half done, and no one has seen a worker out there for a year. Rather than just sitting there saying, well, we can't do anything, we can say, you're in violation, we're moving forward. And then, so we have something. So that's the way I look at it.
Mr. Russell, then Mr. Hellman.
I was just going to say, based on those comments and my feelings earlier, is this is better than nothing. And I would move that we adopt this and send it on to City Council.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second, Mr. DeArmond. Discussion. Mr. Russell.
To clarify, this does not, if adopted, this would not affect the property on West Sandusky near the Courier, nor the one on the three-sided place near the Montessori school.
I mean, first, yeah, there was, well, that gets a little sticky, I'd ask. Rob, do you have any thoughts on that?
I don't think it's going to be retroactive, no. It's
Thank
going to be
you.
going forward.
Mr. Hellman.
That being the case, and I guess I didn't understand that, I would assume that anything that's under construction now has a construction permit, and those two examples are in violation if we were to pass this. That does not seem to be the case. Do they have to come in then for a construction permit once this is passed?
I don't know if I can answer the construction permit part of it, but we're not going to pass an ordinance to put something that they, I guess, were allowed to do, and now they're not, while they're in the middle of the situation. So most laws are not going to be retroactive.
And I suppose I would clarify my earlier comments. What I meant by that is so that it does not happen again in the future. That was my only point.
Yeah, I think that if this is adopted anyways, you'd want to have an effective date January 1st, 2026 anyways, so.
Mr. Russell.
Mr. Feiner, could the 12-month clock start on any construction projects and in any permits that are already out there, construction projects in process, starting with the clock starting on January 1, 2026? Or is that still
If I'm understanding your question right, this is going to be something going forward. If somebody already has a permit out and is working on something, they're going to be under the rules that existed when they took that permit out. So this is going to be going forward because the city sees it as a problem.
Mr. Niemeyer.
I guess this question's for Eric. If I get a building permit, when I leave the room here, it's good for how long?
A year from the date issued.
So if my project's not done, I just come get another building permit?
You just re-up, yep. We get another permit issued within that time period. Unless you're about to, unless the project is almost completed, it's much like that clause in there to where I can give a month extension. If it's like, hey, I only need 3 nails to finish this up, we typically give them an extension to finish the project without issuing another permit.
So then 731 West Sandusky Street still has their first permit?
His is all concrete work now for the driveway. So it was, he had gravel in place for his driveway, and then he just recently opened up the sidewalk, which is still open. So that's outside the property line. I don't handle that, but the driveway can't be completed until that sidewalk's completed.
Sidewalk's been missing for probably 90 days.
And
You
yeah,
cut a curb cut in, and you can't tell me that's illegal.
I'll pass it along. to street department.
I've passed it along.
I'll follow up.
Dave Hunt said it was okay, evidently.
Mr. Niemeyer?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Well, we get a motion second.
Yeah,
on
we got a
this.
motion in a
I
second.
understand that.
I guess my question would be, Denny, getting that information that you had, would you like to withdraw your original motion, or would you like to let it stand?
I'd like to let it stand.
Okay.
Call for the vote.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it.
What's the tree thing that's on the agenda?
I don't see that.
You gotta go.
What is,
You, or you just wanna
what
get
is
out of here?
wooded lots?
We'll explain it when we get to it.
Forward.
Yeah, we could discuss it. Yeah, we'll go. We will have, next on the agenda, wooded lots.
Okay, so, the administration asked, this is an ordinance that we'd worked on, for a little while. And essentially, what it's trying to address, obviously, we have a grass ordinance. We have undeveloped lots or folks who, for various reasons, don't wish to mow, like, let's say they have, one example I can think of is, I believe on Melrose or Bigelow, there's some grass fields that are about 10 acres in size. And so I was asked to come up with, and we looked at other communities, and it's just simply a way to, and guidance to let a lot kind of grow wild. So there was some struggle with the grass permits, and what we wanted is an option for people who did not want to cut the grass, 20 times a summer. They've got a 5-acre undeveloped lot waiting to be developed any day, and we're sending them violations. This is a way for a property owner to be alleviated from the grass permit without a variance. And essentially what it calls for, lots greater than 1 acre, you essentially submit a plan or just a drawing that says, here's my lot, this is the area that I'm going to let grow wild, and the city reviews it and approves it. There'll be some considerations, who's next to you. In some cases, they may ask, the city may require like a 5-foot setback. Like, yes, you can let this grow wild, but you need to mow the 5-foot strip between you and your neighbor, that kind of thing. So this is a way, essentially, an alternative to mowing your yard all the time for larger lots. Or you've got a double lot, and wooded lots is not quite the correct terminology. Let's say you have a double lot and you want to let it grow up in trees and stuff. It's a way to communicate to the city, so we're not issuing a violation like the first 5 years it's growing up. So this is a way to just communicate with the city that you are letting an area grow wild. That's the best way I can explain it.
Questions or comments from the committee? Mr. Russell?
So this is a change to 521.07 is the way this is being presented?
It's an addition. 52107, the weeds part will stay the same. This is, so A stays the same, B is new.
Oh, B is entire, because there, it looks like a red line copy for B.
Yeah, there are some, those are some changes that we've made over the period of time.
But
But
B is entirely,
B
is
does not
entirely new.
exist in the code.
Okay, thank you.
A few. I would say I can count them on a hand the past couple of years since we started this discussion. And there's a lot of people that want to do the honeybee, whatever the
The pollinator.
pollinators in their backyard, like clover and stuff like that. And I guess this would.
I think it's just one time.
Any further discussion?
So is the pollinator areas, is that the big driver here, or are people looking at natural grasses for water consumption, or you know?
I think it's a little bit of both. A lot of people there are some properties that are along the floodplain that have wooded
Rain garden.
lots that are harder to maintain, that at any point they could be put into violation. This would relieve them from the 6-inch grass violation. Rob can speak a little bit more on it too.
Mr. Martin?
Just to add to that, to explain that Eric's comment a little more, say your frontage on the street and your neighbors, it's well maintained, beautifully mowed, groomed, and so forth, but you have a deep lot that actually has the ability to have more of a natural preserve, and cutting that at what you would your front yard versus your backyard to have a little more of that pollinator, natural grasses, and so forth. And it would be maintained a few times a season, but it's not that weekly mow based on rain and growth, if that makes sense. So the purpose would be for it to be not necessarily on the roadside from the front side.
Can I turn it into a riparian corridor like we established on East Main Cross to the east of Blanchard?
I looked into a bunch of that stuff when we originally brought this up, and it's very hard to actually get classified as a private corridor or even a habitat. I mean, I've looked all through ODNR information, couldn't really come across how to exactly get a resident to be able to establish something like that at their private
Can I just
property.
Does this allow me to just to do it, just to turn it back into more trees and forested?
I think that this
Yes.
legislation would
This-
allow you
this
to.
would,
Yeah.
yes.
So I have to have a list of every tree and plant, and
No.
that part is that part at discretion at the bottom of the first page.
I'd say that's part of discretion, yes.
Okay.
So, and I would say, I mean, Eric and we had this discussion, and specifically, like I said, it was on Melrose, 10-acre lot, and it made sense to me, it made sense to everyone that they don't need to mow that every week. But we don't really have, other than saying go to BZA, we don't have a mechanism to relieve anyone of that. So this is part of that. It's something essentially that the city doesn't, it's vague on or doesn't necessarily allow, and is in conflict with the noxious weed, the grass ordinance. So again, we often have to cover, a good zoning code covers somewhat unique situations. Will this how many permits will we have? Probably not many, but it will be helpful in the times that we do need it.
So at one point you had setbacks and then you took the setbacks out.
Yes.
So, there are no setbacks, or how are you looking at setbacks then?
So, upon review, I think we wanted, because each situation is somewhat unique, to have the flexibility for the applicant to work with staff to set the setbacks up. Now, if we come to a disagreement, that's where there is a way to, they can go to BZA. That can be worked through, but we thought the flexibility was better than just trying to come up with setbacks that work for everything.
Mr. Russell?
Seeing as though I've heard about this for about the time we've discussed it today,
Sure.
my first impression is favorable. It's a good idea, good solution. I don't know are you looking just for feedback on the specifics of this, or are you looking for? But in general,
Yeah,
have never considered it at first blush. I think this is a nice direction.
So from enforcement standpoint, this is allowing people an option to do something that our code kind of says you can't. And so some people may not like the way that think of it that way, but we've come across a lot of situations where people want to do this, and it's like, well, okay, I guess we'll just look the other way. And that's not always a great answer. Like, this is a more formal process. Submit the drawing, yes, and then we're all good. So to me, this is allowing something that's currently not allowed to be done necessarily, or is vague and gray.
So to Grant's question, what are you looking for today?
I guess your level of comfort, are you,
Yeah, I'm in support of it. Yes.
I mean,
Generally.
there's a level of comfort, either one, I would say you want to look at it again next month, or if you're comfortable with it, forward it for legislation and discussion at city council.
I would, Mr. Niemeyer?
Looks good. I'd be all for it, but pest and rodent control plan, how on earth are you gonna?
We can strike that. I mean, that's a little nerdy stuff. I don't necessarily, that does not reflect what I expect to receive from someone. I expect to receive a survey or print off from the auditor's webpage that highlights areas where they're going to let grow wild, and then we'll document the setbacks, and then how many times a year do they plan to mow it? Is it a plan of, I'm not going to mow it for 20 years and just let it grow up? Great. Or no, I want to mow it once in the spring and once in the fall.
Are you expecting weed eradication plan?
Not really, no. No.
Taking that out?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Then
I will take those things out, yes.
list of proposed plans?
No.
Okay. Well, we're making progress now, man.
I want mowing schedule and the area.
Reword all that.
Yep.
Mr. Russell, Mr. Hellman?
Does this protect the appearance of the front yard? Because I've seen some properties where they've kind of let it grow natural, and to be honest with you, it looks like hell compared to the neighbor's property on either side, or in context with the neighborhood.
Yeah, in general, and maybe we need to, this is not, and one, it's lots with an acre or more, first off.
And what was that again?
Lots within 1 acre or more.
That's what this applies to, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if someone had more than 1 acre, we would not, and we probably should state it in here, but it should not be the front yard.
I'd feel a little more comfortable with it if they have to keep the front yard looking
Yeah.
halfway decent.
Mr. Russell?
With our next meeting, September 11th, being 2 weeks and a day from now, I would like to see this come back with, you've heard some feedback from the committee, but be sent to us prior to the meeting
Yep.
with enough time to consider it. Don't put it in red line form like it is, just because paragraph B is all new. Let's just see because the first edit, the edit we see is in essence, the first one we're really considering.
Yep, no, that's fine.
And that we put it on the agenda for consideration in September.
Okay, so is that a motion to continue discussions?
Yeah.
Or, okay,
The committee continues this.
okay,
There's no recommendation to council.
okay, do we need to vote then?
Yeah, there's a
Okay,
motion to
okay,
continue the
okay.
discussions.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, we will now discuss the maintenance code.
Okay, last but not least, our final item of the afternoon. So, the issue that the city of Findlay is seeing, especially on an enforcement side, the city of Findlay once or twice a year forces the demolition of a dilapidated structure. What the city really doesn't have is any way to intervene before it becomes a dilapidated structure. And I've heard arguments in the past, that we have a building code. We've adopted the Ohio building code. But one, that's not enforced. And two, the Ohio building code is very light on maintenance items. It's really focused on new construction, remodeling, et cetera. So, I looked at, so what many communities do, and, oops. Oh, my list didn't make it in. I have prepared a list. I included about 70 communities in Ohio that you have there. I don't think it made it onto yeah. It's not quite 70. I think it's between 50 or 60, and it's not an exhaustive list. But these are all communities that have adopted the Ohio Building Code and adopted the International Property Maintenance Code. And so that's what's before you is the International Property Maintenance Code. And one of the benefits of this, it's a standardized, legally vetted framework. IPMC, International Property Maintenance Code, is a national model code, tested in courts and updated every 3 years, providing cities with legality, reliability, and enforcement. It's flexible for local needs, and that's what we've done here. There was no interest in looking at the maintenance of the interior of the structure, electrical, plumbing, etc. What this proposal does simply looks at the exterior of the home. If you have, what we have found lacking is, the health department is not a help. The rules that we have within the city code are not a help. If we see a home with a 3 foot by 3 foot hole in the roof, there's nothing really on the books that says that needs to be repaired. And so by adopting this code, that's what we'll be looking at are these, when an exterior item, an exterior portion of the house is failing, this is the code that we would look to. So as you can see, we've redlined a lot of it. Some of the items we redlined are covered in other chapters. Some of the items we redlined had to do with the exterior or the interior of homes, which we're not looking to go into properties and do any, but we're looking at exterior items only. So, that in general is my summary of what we're trying to do. The city feels like, we issue permits for new buildings. We forcibly tear down dilapidated buildings, but if someone is missing siding for 20 years, we don't have any recourse to say you need to repair that. I would like to think that everyone's going to be a good neighbor and they would maintain their properties, but that's usually the case, but it's not always the case. And there's an opportunity for the city to step in and kind of help the neighborhood out and say, hey, you have to.
Mr. Russell.
Mr. Feiner, in light of the conversations about the applicability of the time to complete construction ordinance, how would adoption of this be enforceable on any property? Because wouldn't they all be grandfathered?
I'll try to answer that. The one about the time for construction is a little different because somebody's taking out a permit and has to follow the rules that are in existence at that time. This is one of these sort of a violation of a maintenance code. How do I say this? A lot of times these things would say that each day is a new violation. We have those in a lot of our own ordinances now, that each day is a new violation. So if there's a requirement that steps have a railing, if they're a certain size or length or whatever, and you don't have that, the next day after this law passes, you're going to have it. It's looked at differently than, because there wasn't anything before. Now there is. Marijuana wasn't legal. Now it is, kind of a thing. This is a little different than that one.
Mr. Russell?
How do you see enforcement of this happening? Is it in a similar manner as we've already discussed? It's kind of a complaint driven. Is it Eric's driving around and sees something?
If I'm going to answer it, I'm going to guess it's going to be complaint driven. But I don't know the answer to what the theory is going to be here.
So the structure of what we have right now is complaint-based violations are on a complaint base right now for all general offenses. If the officer is going out in the neighborhood, he has been asked to take a look and make sure that other violations in that general block area radius aren't similar to what he's investigating on that matter, whatever he's in the neighborhood for. So with that being said, I would say that they would be complaint based like they are now, unless there's initiative from council where they're like, hey, in my ward there's really a lot of complaints about Councilman Niedermeyer's property, for example. Can we get a little bit more enforcement in this area? And then I could see that there would be maybe an initiative to possibly look to do a little bit more enforcement in there. But as it would stand, it would be complaint based, though.
Eric, I think we had talked, is there training associated with this code?
With this code, there are, whenever somebody is doing residential building code enforcement and property maintenance code enforcement, they do have module from the ICC that they can take, but it's not necessarily an important piece of that, because you can look at somebody's sidewalk, as it says right there, with driveways and stuff, and make a determination without any kind of certification. Or if somebody has no siding and wrapping, weathering wrapping, you can look and say there's no wrapping and siding on the property. So there is opportunities for certification, but it's not necessarily a item that's needed.
Any other comments? Mr. Diarmid?
I would like to read this. I haven't really had a chance to go through it, so I personally don't want to vote on this tonight, but
No, I agree. I think this is a complex issue, and I think the wooded lot was less complex. This is more complex, obviously. So my recommendation is to digest it a little bit, and we'll get feedback from the community and things like that also. So I did meet with, had a nice meeting with the president of the Rental Association. And I know they'll be preparing some statements and some questions and concerns. We both agreed that we want to see our community well maintained. I think they just had a differing opinion on if this was best. So we'll be hearing from them and probably others in the future here. But yeah, no, I definitely agree that this is something to think about, and we can discuss it more in September.
is overgrown landscaping addressed in here?
It is a little, if it, I believe if it hinders ingress, egress to the house, et cetera. But no, I mean, we don't get to judge the quality of their trimming and their prize rhododendrons and things like that.
Mr. Hellman?
I just wanted to say, I agree with Mr. Diarmid. I'd like time to look at this.
Yep.
Have we seen this before?
No, I emailed it out last week. But no, this is the first discussion at planning and zoning.
All right, thank you.
I suppose.
So bad.
I suppose that would be my recommendation moving forward. We digest this and we revisit it again next month. Agreed? I guess with that, I would accept a motion to adjourn. Mr. Niebuyer? Sure. All those in favor? Aye. See you next month, guys.
What about parking standards? Do we cover that? So that's not on the agenda.
Mm-mm.
Better hurry. Hopefully it's only down to the ridge.
Squabbling over nest box. They're a ton louder than roosters, and they will go on for hours. Yeah, well, that's
That's kind of what
That's
it
our
sounds like. Nobody knows anything.